Greetings all binaries west. Going to take a look at uranium this week as we do. Bit of a Black Friday, wasn't it? Not really good, but we're down on the upside. So let's let's just jump in and have a look here. So just kicking off here with URA. I'd kind of hoped that it would find its feet through here, but it just didn't, right? And now it's fallen right back. So this now is looking kind of like a bit of a fake breakout. Now we've sort of maintained this gentle sort of trend structure, but it's certainly under some danger now, isn't it? So I'm kind of just looking at this now and just thinking, okay, well, this has been the whole move of the upswing from here to here, and we're just sitting just into the retracement zone now. So I think, yes, it can still find its feet here, but I just think that if we lose this through into next week, then the danger is that we're going to revisit the bottom of this sort of range that we've been in, and then maybe we've got to revisit that back. CCJ kind of tore me away from this idea a little bit, because it's the one that's sort of subsisting above its level, but it's the only one. I mean, it's the one bright spot in an otherwise dreary uranium market at the moment. But I just look at this and I think, okay, well, this is kind of the area where I want it to really show some gumption, because if it can't, then I think these high $26 sort of beckon, like down through here. I think that's kind of where it's headed. Even just quickly looking at this on a volume sense, the volume's been done right at, this is the point of control, so that's where the volume for this bad session's been done, and the volume itself isn't special. So there's just not many people willing to stand in front of it, certainly not today. So, I'd kind of, this is, like I said, this is the area, I think, and it probably just ties into a bit of this. But this is where I'd want it to hold. I wouldn't want to see it slip through here, okay, and break through all that, because then that leaves the downside a bit open there, I think. URNM, a little bit more sinister. I just think, look, like I said, I think thank goodness for Cameco, right? Because if it wasn't for that, I think this would look a fair bit uglier. So, we've kind of had, when I'm sort of looking at this, we kind of had this sort of three-waved movement up to make one long pivot. And now it kind of looks, it's not very well formed, but it's kind of looking a bit more like this, right? So, is this going to turn into a full-blown impulse? Well, once again, we're just sitting here. We've just closed into the meat of the major retracement, which is coming off this pivot low all the way up to this pivot high. We're just sitting in the area back. So once again, this would be the sort of area that you'd want to see hold. And if it can't, because we've kind of, I think on URA, you could kind of, draw up the trend channel, the little trend channel that we're in, and it's still kind of holding. But this one looks a little bit more, a little bit yuckier, doesn't it? So, this would be kind of like the impulsive sort of area if we were sort of coming down here in a third, more extended wave. And then if we were going to do that, then I would kind of be thinking 4, 5, something down like that, to make some sort of impulsive move. But certainly, I think if that little box holds, so we're talking about sort of $50.76, sort of, if it slips below $50, I think that's probably, psychologically, if it slips below there, then I would suspect that it's heading down there. But look, the other thing too to say about the whole thing is that everything suffered today. If you're feeling bad, well, just think about the poor people who bought GameStop at $65 and that in the aftermarket yesterday. Like, they'd be hurting a lot worse than anyone in uranium. So that is how I see this at the moment. This is, if it slips below 50, I think, I'm starting to go back and go, okay, well, look, this is really starting to look like a fake breakout, no follow through, and now it's, in an accelerating downward move. So, you'd want it to find its feet here. That's pretty much all I could say about that. Just quickly, the only other thing that makes me quite wary is that, the buyers did hold this thing up for most of the day. Okay, so it was only late. Okay, so, we spent the morning portion up here sort of above $53. We just sort of fell below it. But the fact is that the market's closed here, right, at $51.88. So they closed it through $52. But the bulk of the volume, and there was a bit of volume done today when you look at it. Okay, when you look at it overall, this wasn't too bad a volume day, but the fact is that the buyers couldn't hold it here above $52, which was sort of the point of control, and it's closed right down here below $52. So that's not great, but like I said, we want to see if any more buyers sort of emerge through this area through here on Monday and into next week. Hopefully we can find our feet here once the shock and awe of the payrolls figure rolls by, but at the moment it looks a little bit dicey. This is where I want it to hold. URNJ and the juniors, this one looks a little bit more sinister. There's not a lot of volume. It doesn't look like there's a lot of interest to hold this thing up. Okay, and now when I think about, this is definitely looking like a false breakout. And then when I think about the overall range, that's backwards, sorry. Or should I say, when I think about the last swing, the fact that we've now gotten through the retracement area, to me is a little bit, it's far from perfect. It kind of makes me think that we are going to have to go down now and test towards the bottom of this range. That's how I would look at it. That's the way that this shapes up as we sit here and now on the hard right edge. And look, to be honest, there's a chance we could go even further. You never know, but this is a bit of a line in the sand. But you crack there, and maybe we are going to test back down that low. It's just it doesn't look like there's a lot of interest to buy. Just looking at the volumes here, this is a big selling bar. But after that, there's just not a lot of interest to buy the juniors as we sit here and now. So yeah, I'd be pretty cautious here. If you're not long and you want to get long, I'd just be exercising a bit of patience, I think, because this is just your next point. You just look at points of call, and this is the next one. But if we lose that, well, we're talking about down here, and if that goes, maybe down here. I mean, if that goes, then the whole pitch is sort of shifting pretty badly, right? I mean, I think you got to then go back and. We knew the trend was over, and my suspicion was that this was going to spend a bit of time doing this, but I definitely wouldn't want to lose the bottom of this, because that's going to really change the picture for the worse. So let's see, but we've just got our little points of call here. We've lost the retracement, but really, I mean, that's not necessarily the end of the world. It just means that you just prefer to see it hold if you want to see these sort of trends maintain. But just because it breaks doesn't mean they won't maintain. But it just looks like now we're going a bit deeper. So let's see. But yeah, I don't want it to lose that. So just moving on now, having a look at energy fuels. So we did just poke through the top here. Maybe you could make a little impulse out of that. But are we coming down here now in a correct? Well, obviously we're correcting. But we're just sitting right on that 61.8. So this big box represents the overall retracement. I just took it off because it was just looking a little bit. And when I say the overall retracement, I mean the big one, sort of here to here, right? This is just represents the sort of 50 to 61.8% retracement of that large move. So I'm just looking at I'm just looking at the short term here. And we're just sitting right into that area. So once again, this is not a bad thing, because remember, what we've got. What do we need for a trend? We need a new high, a higher low, and then a higher high. Okay, so all we really can say about this is we just don't want this low to give way. It can go anywhere here as long as it does that. Okay, that's just how it sets up for a new uptrend. Okay, and we haven't had that in energy fuels for a long time. So this is okay. I mean, this would be the type of behavior that I'd want to see to set up a new trend. Okay, we're not there yet, of course, but this is what you want to see. So hopefully we can find our feet here. But so far so good. I don't see anything too untoward here, other than the general state of the overall market, of course. But just looking at the magnitude of the moves, we know that we had this swing, and then this swing was much bigger. Now, so this downswing here was went for 18 trading days, down 25%. So far it's only 5 trading days. We're down 17%. But the point being is I wouldn't want to. It's not a guarantee, but I wouldn't want it to fall more than 25%. Like, I wouldn't want it to fall more than this one. So just to roughly sketch it out, all I'm saying is, so it can fall, but I wouldn't want it to do. go outside the parameters of this box. That's what I would not want to see it happen. Obviously, you don't want it to break that, but what we want to see is for this to get out of that box, in the time frame. That's what I'm saying. So if we can do that, then this downswing is definitely smaller than that one. So that's just kind of what I'd be looking for. But as it sits here now, look, we're just sitting on that retracement. Let's see what happens in the next week. I mean, the market will find its feet eventually. It's just a bit of a rocky zone just here and now, but we will see what happens. UEC, this one looks a little bit worse for wear, doesn't it? And we kind of looked at this last week. And I think we just even put this onto a line chart to sort of just highlight the wedging nature of what was going on here. And now this is broken down relatively poorly. So look, where are we? We're still kind of we're just on a bottom here. Like this is like almost double bottom as it sits here and now, right? So I'm just tighten that up a little bit. So the only thing I'd say about this one is hopefully we've got a chance of a range forming here, but you'd really want it to find its feet, but it doesn't look overly special. So if we're thinking about this, I think I said yesterday that an Elliottian would go, okay, well, you've got an impulse, you've got one wave, a corrective wedge, and then we'll get a third wave down. Just in a general sense, what you'd be expecting is that move, this is the top, an equal leg move down like that, which would put us just shy of the 50% mark of the whole rally. So that in itself is not it's not horrible if that happens, because that would just open up the structure to further rallying. I would have thought that in an Elliott sense, an impulse, a three-wave correction, and this looks like a pretty classic three-wave correction now the way this has gone down at an impulsive move. Even though I don't maybe make an impulse out of that's a little bit tricky. This wedge maybe you can make a bit of a triangle sort of case, but the point being, it looks like that we've got an actionary move, a reactionary move, and now we're just getting another actionary move. So that, the point being, is that would be the expected behavior, and it is behaving as expected if you were applying the theory of Elliott wave. So really, I think that if this gives way, this is obviously your ultimate area down here. That would be the area to pay attention to. But look, we have to see if it actually happens. I mean, maybe this thing finds its feet. I mean, the fact that and you could come in here on Monday and go, if this starts pushing away like this, you could be like, oh, well, it's a double bottom. And that's true. It would be, basically. Not 100%, but, it's close enough that you would say, okay, well, now it's got a double bottom, it's found its feet. So what would you need to see? Well, you just need to see some sort of trend change, right? So if you came down here on the hourly, which, I'd be looking down on the shorter time frame to see the market try to do that. Okay, and at that point you can come back and go, okay, yeah, well, double bottom, bit of a range, but does that mean we can now fire and try to take on the top of the range? That would be the question, and then you'd be back looking at all this stuff and seeing if there was some stuff that you could pin off there. But I would think for me, yeah, I mean, one of these pivots, I'd probably be maybe that one. You'd be looking for this zone to come back, test into the bottom of that. That'd be a good kind of point of call. But as it sits here and now, I mean, I don't think that the move down here would be an unexpected outcome. Let's just put it like that. And if it does go that way, well, then that's where you start paying attention between sort of $5.46 and $5.32 down into there. That would be the kind of where you're coming into the buy zone here for UEC, I would think. So just quickly look here at Encore Energy, and we sort of looked at this. This is the same sort of phenomenon that happened, right? So we had a few degrees of trend going on in here, but we've lost them both. Okay, so we do have this sort of, look at this, 1, 2, 3, and then all this just couldn't get through. But, I guess the warning shots here were, we pointed this out last week, get rid of that, is that, of course, we had, actually we can start it from here, was we had the top, we had a high, low, top, high, low, top, high, low, top, and then once we gave way, well, we've really given way now. So, oh yeah, I think I'm pretty sure all the retracements are gone. If I can get this around the right way, Yeah, they're all toast. So yeah, this to me now looks like it's going to come down and test down to here. That's how I would read it. Look, see what Monday brings. The market, there'll probably be some sort of some value hunting here, but it may not come on Monday. It may come later in the week as people just stand aside and let it all shake out. But once the sellers sort of are satisfied and they don't want to sell anymore and the market finds its feet, then we might see some buyers re-emerging. Once again, I just pointed out this last week, this was the last big attempt on volume to break the top. And since we failed there, we had one more go up here. And then, even just looking at this, when you look at the just the way the volumes have tailed away, is it sort of just couldn't get there, and down we come. So whether or not there's still people trapped long in this, I don't know. But this is going to be the point of call. So what are you talking about? Sort of $4.11 down to $4. I think if it loses $4, it's you can expect a test down to the bottom of the range. That's how I just read it. Let's see what happens. But yeah, this one's looking a little bit shaky. Someone in the comments last week asked to have a look at some of the ASX names. So I'll just quickly finish off here by looking at Bannerman, which is one of the bigger names on the ASX. Yeah, look, this is the same sort of thing, right? The overall trend is intact, but we've just had an acceleration of the trend up here. Right? So we sort of lost this degree of trend, okay? But that's it was pretty steep. But so far, look, it's just nothing really is different here when compared to everything else. So what would I do? Well, I think this would be the first point of retracement that we're just sitting on, right? So as it sits, that's okay. But of course, this hasn't had a chance to react to what has happened in the North American uranium names on Friday, because obviously this closed on Thursday night US time. So yes, you would expect that this is going to suffer on Monday morning in Australia. So I'd probably now be looking at this as the bigger retracement area, which of course just ties into this structure. So that it looks pretty straightforward to me, right? This is trending down. It's just a matter of can it extend down as far as that. That would be just the question to be asking. So, well, I think where's 1-to-1 sort of puts it a little bit above it. If we were just looking at, let's go down at the time frame here, if we were just looking at this sort of little trend. But yeah, so to me, I think this kind of lines up with that. To me, I'd just be looking, I think this is going to slip down lower, but this would be weird. It goes without saying, right? You've got these bottoms here too. So 380 to 360, that kind of looks like, and that's in Aussie dollars, I will point out. So that kind of looks like the area where I'd be paying attention. But there's a fair way to go before we can break this, because remember, to really break this, this would be the trend change. But to really start to force the breakout, we'd have to get above here. Okay, so it can change course without in the short term without See, here's the problem. The market can change direction in trend, and it can get to this area, and then all of a sudden it's doing that again. Okay, and then what have you got on the bigger degree? You've got the bigger rejection in the trend. So this is why we just watch the short term to see if this trend changes, and if it does, well then we can start to think about, okay, well, if the trend's now changed, I can start to think about taking on these other areas, but we're obviously not there yet. We really have to see what this does on Monday and how it reacts to the bad moves in North American names on the Friday session. So look, that's it for this week. I'll leave it there. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.